but it really was a good part. And we had a family feel to our relationships, shared experiences, a comfortable, unforced bond that was born of our similar lives. There were plenty of cousins and extended family, and kids did grow up and intermarry, but for the most part, we weren't related in the biological sense. Most of us were not. We all had a commonality that was almost like a family resemblance. Family resemblances are kind of funny. Sometimes we reflect the mannerisms of our family members, even ones that we never knew. Food preferences and aversions are common among family members. Sometimes they have genetic functions or genetic causes, but sometimes it's just what you grow up eating or liking or disliking. But our physical resemblances are some of the most common resemblances and the most obvious ones. The physical characteristics in my family are extremely obvious. One of my brothers once remarked, trying to distance himself from the rest of us, that we were all adopted and surgically altered to look alike. I was once at a crowded street dance over Labor Day weekend in Winnemucca when a person I had never met before said to me, "You must be a Dolan." When I asked how he knew, he said, "The eyes." One of the strangest things about family resemblances, one that I'm experiencing more and more now that I'm older, is how much I am reminded of my mother when I catch a quick glimpse of myself. Friday night we were at it, and of course I'm at that age where I'm looking more and more like her as I age. I was at an event for my brother being honored on Friday night, and a guy that had been at another high school but was in my high school got up as one of the honorees, and I when I saw him get up, I thought, I wonder who that old guy is. I realized, of course, he's my age, but I hadn't seen him in 40 years. So, but I think it started for me with glancing down at my hands and seeing my arm and seeing my mom's hands come out of my arm. It looked like my mother's hands, and many of you have probably experienced the same thing. My mother's been gone for 12 years, and it actually makes me sad when I look down and only see my hands because I'm so used to seeing them, that they're now familiar to me, and I don't see my mom's hands necessarily attached to the ends of my arms. So growing up in Winnemucca, one of my childhood friends was a boy named Bobby. Probably doesn't go by Bobby anymore, but that's how he is frozen in time for me. And Bobby was an amazing person. He was the whole package. He was the star quarterback, the star basketball player, student body president, good looking, honor roll student, and nice. And sorry, I'm kind of losing my. Several years ago, I was walking into a store and there was a man and a woman sitting outside having coffee. And as I passed by, the man said to me, "Hi, Colleen, how you doing?" And I froze in panic, thinking, I have absolutely no idea who this guy is. I've never seen him before in my life. And then it hit me. Although I thought I was looking into the face of a stranger, I realized that I would recognize that face anywhere because I saw my friend Bobby's father. And at least the face I had remembered from 30 years before as being Bobby's father. And of course, we were about the same age as his father would have been one of the last times I saw him. And I recognized Bobby not because he looked as I remembered him from high school, because he is now the spitting image of his father, just as we are the spitting image of our father. I thought about all of this as I read today's Old Testament reading from Genesis, and there amidst this familiar story of the creation of the world, the might and the wonder and the power of God on display is a pretty important piece of information about who we are. It's found in chapter 1 of Genesis, verses 26 and 27. And then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image." Notice our image, the Trinity, and our likeness. So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So what does it mean that we, Every one of you, everyone here, everybody in the world is created in the image of God. It certainly does not mean that we possess the divinity and power of God, but for starters, it does tell us how special and privileged we are to be the very image of the one who birthed us, who made us, who nurtured us. The psalm tells us he placed us just below him. The Bible separates humans from all other living creations of God because we are the only creation made in his image. The words image and likeness used in Genesis 1:26 and 27 express the idea of the whole person being created in this way. So in some sense includes our material and our invisible aspects. Now we know that strictly speaking, human's physical body is not patterned after the physical appearance of God. We are taught in John 4 that God is spirit and does not reside in any physical body. However, this does not preclude the physical body being some part of the image of God. We currently exist as body and soul together. So it makes no sense to talk of us as just a soul or just a body while we're alive on earth. Our body and our soul are intricately intertwined to make us who we are. The body God created for us reflects God's image by first of all being one in substance, appropriate for us to recognize on this Trinity Sunday. God as a Trinity is one being, acting with as much unity as our soul acts with our body. Our bodies are living, and Paul emphasizes that we serve a living God, not one of gold or silver. That's from Acts 17:29. In fact, he says that those idols cannot be God because it would take a living being to create us as living beings. Our ability to reason demonstrates another way that man is made in the image of God. God, by his nature, is a rational being. He operates by the laws of logic. He is not constrained by them because they were some kind of higher force to God, but they are the natural outflow of his will. They are his nature. He is as much a rational being as he is a loving being, because only man has the true capacity for rational thinking among living creatures, completely rational thinking, I guess. He is in this way also made us in his image. Also, we possess intelligence, some days more than others, some people more than others. Me, certainly not all the time, but we're aware of our surroundings and capable of changing them. We are not driven purely by instinct as animals are mostly. And most of the time we can kind of control our natural drives to achieve a higher purpose or a higher goal. God has given us free will, which likewise also reflects God's image. For the most part, everyone has the ability to choose his or her actions. We are morally aware. We understand that certain things are good and certain things are evil. Before the fall, Adam and Eve had no experiential knowledge of good and evil, but they most certainly understood that they should obey God's commands. If this were not so, God warning them about punishment if they disobeyed him would have no meaning to them. And the fall could be viewed as God's entrapment. It would be like punishing a small baby for grabbing a toy that didn't belong to them. They had the capacity to understand. Adam most certainly did understand that disobeying the will of God was wrong, and there could be dire consequences to his actions. Although we also often struggle to do the right thing, to obey God, we still possess the moral understanding and comprehension of what we want and what we should. Another one of the ways the image of God manifests itself in humankind is that only we can be aware of God and be capable of fellowshipping with him. God yearns to be in relationship with us. He adores us. He delights in us. And in creating us in his image, he created in us that same hunger, that same yearning to be in his presence and to know him. Being created in the image of God means that when I want to see the face of God, I just have to turn and look into the faces of Joyce or Raul or Janet or Nina. Being created in the image of God tells us that we are valuable just as God created us. Psalm 139 tells us that we should praise and thank God because we are wonderfully and fearfully made. And we are. We are unique and wondrous because we bear the image of God. We are bombarded on a daily basis with the message that who we are and what we look like and how we think and how we feel and who we love must be judged, enhanced, improved, changed. Look, we all have room for improvement, but we have to be careful with that message. Striving to be better does not mean we start from a place of worthlessness. Sometimes it's other Christians who convey that message to us the strongest. I have had people tell me that they are tired of going to church only to be told every Sunday what a bunch of dirty, rotten, no good sinners we all are. People my age often grew up with that message every Sunday. Sadly, many segments of our society are still told that message by Christians, that they are not welcome here because of their race or their gender, of a disability, of who they love, what they have done in the past. The best sermon I ever heard on this topic was in prison, and I've shared this before, but I repeat it every chance I get because it's such an important message and it's such a truth that I cling to. I remind myself of it when I am feeling less than, when I'm feeling unlovable, when I'm feeling outside the reach of God's grace. One of the chaplains in our Kairos prison group was speaking about the communion liturgy in the Catholic Church, where the people recite, "Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the word, and I will be healed." And his response to that was, "No kidding. Now get over it. Not being worthy does not mean the same as being worthless. God is the decider. And he loved us so much that while we were yet sinners, he sent his son to save us." Bearing the image of God should not only affect how we see ourselves, but everyone around us. Because no matter what their religion, who they choose to love, their ethnic or cultural differences, the choices they've made in life, rich or poor, or beautiful or not so pleasing, prisoner or free, they each bear the image of our Creator just as much as we do and deserve to be treated with proper respect and honor because they and we reflect God. How might we see ourselves differently or those around us in the world if every time we looked in the mirror or looked at the face of another, we said, "I'd recognize that face anywhere because you are the spitting image of our Father"? I was going to close my sermon with that, and then I saw on Facebook today shared the prayer from annual conference yesterday, and I think it bears sharing today. "Oh God, remove from our minds hatred, prejudice, and contempt for those who are not of our own racial or ethnic background, our nation, our political affiliation, our gender or sexual identity and class or creed, that departing from everything that estranges and divides us, we may by you make amends, reconcile with one another, and be brought into unity of spirit in the bond of peace." Amen.